The Galactic Authority for Exploration and Expansion, GAEE, prided itself on knowing everything. Every pulsar, every rogue black hole, every species that had ever figured out how to use a spoon. Nothing surprised them. Until now. "Run the scan again," High Coordinator Zilpath said, rubbing the ridges on his forehead in distress. The officer in charge, a three-eyed being named Uvrix, swallowed hard. "Sir, we've run it 12 times. Same result." Zilpath turned to the enormous holographic map in the center of the command chamber. It displayed a standard planetary survey: oxygen atmosphere, liquid water, carbon-based life. In other words, just another cosmic pebble floating in the void. And yet, something was wrong. Uvrix hesitated before speaking again. "It's just, none of the advanced ones ever went near it." Zilpath stiffened. The advanced ones referred to the ancient spacefaring civilizations, the ones who had mapped the galaxy eons before GAE even existed. These species had left behind vast ruins, artifacts of unimaginable power, and, more importantly, star charts. The charts marked which worlds they had visited, exploited, terraformed, or casually obliterated. Every planet in the known galaxy had some record of visitation. Every planet except this one. Zilpath inhaled deeply. "So what you're telling me is that the most powerful, most intelligent beings to have ever existed looked at this planet and collectively decided, 'Nope'?" Uvrix nodded. "And yet you're suggesting we should take a closer look?" Uvrix nodded again. Zilpath groaned and turned toward the view screen. There it was, a blue-green world orbiting a rather unimpressive yellow star. By all accounts, it should have been normal, but it wasn't. It felt off. "Maybe it's a clerical error," suggested an underling from the logistics division. "A clerical error?" Zilpath repeated, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You think an entire intergalactic civilization made a typo and just forgot to visit a planet?" "It's possible." Zilpath sighed. "All right, fine. Let's send a probe. A small one. Nothing fancy. Just in, out, and hopefully we learn that this is all just a misunderstanding." The probe, designated P3 Nut, was a simple reconnaissance drone. It had survived black hole proximity tests, solar flares, and a brief but deeply humiliating encounter with a sentient vending machine. In other words, it was reliable. It was launched with minimal ceremony, shooting toward the uncharted world. The command chamber fell into an uneasy silence as they watched its progress. Then suddenly, P3 Nut's signal flickered. "Telemetry's acting weird," Uvrix muttered, adjusting controls. The screen fuzzed, then static. "Did we just—" Before Zilpath could finish, P3 Nut's signal reappeared. But now it was broadcasting something, a voice, a deep, terrifying, primordial voice. "Oi, who the hell parked this thing in my backyard?" Silence. The entire GAE command room froze. Uvrix said finally. "Did the probe just get yelled at?" Another voice, slightly less threatening but still brimming with menace, followed. "Chuck it in the bin, Dave." A crunching noise echoed through the speakers. Then, nothing. The signal went dark. Uvrix slowly turned to Zilpath. "Sir?" Zilpath took a long, slow breath. "Recall all ships. No one goes near that planet." "But, sir—" "No one!" Uvrix hesitated. "Should we log a formal report on this incident?" Zilpath shook his head violently. "No, no reports, no records. In fact, if anyone asks, we never scanned this planet. I want every single file on this erased. We never speak of this again." Uvrix gulped. "Understood, sir." The GE command chamber sat in stunned silence. Then quietly, the logistics underling muttered, "Probably just a clerical error." The emergency meeting of the Galactic Authority for Exploration and Expansion, GAE, was held in a room so unnecessarily large that sound took a full 3 seconds to reach the other end. This was a design flaw, but no one wanted to admit it because the architect was the High Coordinator's cousin. Zilpath sat at the head of the table, staring at the screen where the last transmission from P3 Nut had been displayed. It had now been replaced with the words, "No signal. Probe probably dead. Sorry." "All right," Zilpath said slowly. "Let's go over what we know. First, the most advanced civilizations in history refused to visit this planet. A murmur of agreement. Second, we sent a probe, and it was immediately intercepted by an unknown entity capable of verbal communication. A few nods. Third, the entity referred to itself as Dave and disposed of the probe in something called a bin. At this, there was some confusion. A being with 6 eyes raised a hand. "What is a bin?" "We don't know," Zilpath admitted. Silence. A representative from the scientific division cleared his throat. "This leaves us with only one logical conclusion." He tapped on his datapad, and the words, "Something else lives there," appeared on the giant screen. Everyone leaned back, disturbed. It was one thing to find new life. It was another to find life that had been deliberately avoided by the galaxy's most ancient and powerful civilizations. A cautious voice broke the silence. "Perhaps we're overreacting. Maybe Dave is just a primitive life form that accidentally interacted with our probe." Zilpath rubbed his temples. "The probe was designed to survive extreme conditions. We once accidentally left it inside a neutron star for a week, and it only sent back one complaint about the heat. Whatever this Dave is, it crushed it like a snack wrapper." The silence deepened. "So, what do we do?" someone finally asked. "Nothing!" Zilpath slapped his hands on the table. "Absolutely nothing. We leave this planet alone." The meeting should have ended there. It would have ended there. But then, a voice no one wanted to hear spoke up. "I volunteer to investigate." Every head turned to face Draxil, a renowned xenobiologist with a dangerous amount of curiosity and an even more dangerous lack of survival instincts. Zilpath's expression darkened. "Draxil, I will personally eject you into space if you finish that sentence." Draxil smiled in the deeply unsettling way that scientists do when they've already made up their minds. "But think about it. We could be looking at a species unlike anything we've ever encountered. Something so powerful that it scared the ancients. Don't you want to know why?" Zilpath did not want to know why. He wanted to go home, eat his favorite nutrient paste, and pretend this never happened. "Draxil," he said carefully, "I need you to understand something. We are not supposed to be the ones investigating this. Do you know why? Because the species that should have done it, the ones that built Dyson spheres, harvested stars, and bent reality, took one look at this planet and said, 'No, thank you.'" Draxil waved a hand dismissively. "They were probably just busy with something else." Zilpath stared at him. "Busy? Sure. Maybe they had a cosmic war to fight, or a black hole to stabilize, or—" "Draxil, you're telling me that an entire network of hyper-intelligent godlike beings forgot to check one planet?" Draxil shrugged. Zilpath put his face in his hands. He took a long, deep breath. Then slowly he lifted his head and said, "You've already booked a ship, haven't you?" Draxil grinned. "Absolutely." Zilpath considered throwing himself out of an airlock. Draxil's ship, the Curious Mistake, was an old exploration vessel that had survived multiple disastrous expeditions purely by accident. It had once drifted through a pulsar storm, been swallowed and promptly spat out by an interdimensional rift, and spent an entire week parked inside the digestive system of a space leviathan before anyone noticed. The ship's onboard AI, BIL, barely intelligent life form, had long since given up on questioning Draxil's choices. Destination confirmed, uncharted death planet. Estimated survival probability. Ha 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 ha. Good one, Draxil. Optimism, BIL. Draxil said, adjusting the controls. "Besides, if anything goes wrong, I have an emergency teleporter." "Oh yes, the device that failed to teleport you out of a janitor's closet last month. Very reassuring." Draxil ignored this slander. The ship's engines roared to life, and with a final sigh from BIL, they jumped into hyperspace. Meanwhile, back at GAE headquarters, Zilpath was sitting in his office trying to pretend that his best scientist wasn't about to become space mulch. The door slid open and Uvrix entered hesitantly. "Sir, we've been monitoring Draxil's trajectory." Zilpath didn't look up. "Let me guess, he's on his way to die." "Well, yes. But more importantly, we've intercepted some transmissions from the planet." Zilpath's head snapped up. "What?" Uvrix nervously tapped on his datapad. "At first we thought it was meaningless noise, but after some analysis we realized that the inhabitants of the planet are constantly communicating. And well, here's the thing," he cleared his throat, "none of it makes sense." Zilpath narrowed his eyes. "Explain." Uvrix took a deep breath. "So far, we've identified thousands of conflicting reports about their own reality. Some claim the planet is round, others say it's flat. Some believe in invisible beings that control everything, while others insist that existence is pure chaos. They have a communication system called the Internet that appears to exist solely for the purpose of arguing. We have detected entire wars fought over things that do not exist." Zilpath stared. "That's insane." "Oh, it gets worse." Uvrix tapped his datapad again. "They have weapons that can destroy cities, yet some of them refuse to eat vegetables." Zilpath's jaw clenched. "They mass-produce metal death machines they call cars, and then deliberately steer them into each other for entertainment." Zilpath's eye twitched. "They have voluntarily launched themselves into space several times, despite clearly not being ready for it." Zilpath stood up. "Stop! I don't want to hear more." "But sir, we haven't even gotten to the part where they drink a liquid that actively poisons their bodies for fun." Zilpath collapsed back into his chair. He took a long, slow breath. "Uvrix, do you understand what this means?" Uvrix nodded grimly. "Yes, sir. The Ancient Ones didn't ignore this planet. They fled from it." Back on the curious mistake, Draxil's ship exited hyperspace just outside the planet's orbit. The first thing he noticed was how ordinary it looked. The second thing he noticed was that his scanner was flashing red and beeping ominously. "Warning! Logic failure detected." Draxil frowned. "BI? What does that mean?" "It means I don't know how to process what I'm seeing, and I would very much like to leave now." Draxil ignored him and activated the ship's long-range visual feed. The screen lit up with images of humans. They were everywhere, walking, running, shouting at small handheld devices, throwing things at each other, putting objects in their mouths that were clearly not meant to be eaten. They engaged in behaviors that had no discernible benefit. One of them appeared to be hitting himself in the face with a plank for no reason. "Fascinating," Draxil whispered. Then the ship's alarm blared. "Incoming projectile!" Draxil's heart leapt into his throat. What? A missile? A laser? Worse, a piece of trash. The ship shook as a dented aluminum can bounced off its hull. Draxil checked the external cameras just in time to see a human in a bulky white suit floating nearby, waving. "What the actual hell?" The human gave a thumbs up. Then through the ship's speaker, a garbled voice came through. "Hey, you guys need a jump start or something?" Draxil's mind short-circuited. The human tapped the side of his helmet. "Sorry, bad signal. Hold on." There was a burst of static. Then, clearer this time. "You want a beer?" Draxil screamed. Draxil's brain had officially left the building. A human, a real, living, actual human, was floating outside his ship, casually offering him a drink. "This isn't happening," Draxil whispered. "Oh, it's happening," BIL confirmed grimly. "And if you open that airlock, I swear on my circuits, I am activating self-destruct. We don't even have a self-destruct. I will build one." Meanwhile, outside, the human tapped his helmet impatiently. "Hello? Space dude? You good?" Draxil took a slow, shuddering breath and did what any respected xenobiologist would do in this situation. Panic. "What do I do?" he hissed. "Leave! Immediately! But this is first contact. Exactly. Which means it should be someone else's problem. Draxil ignored him. With shaking hands, he activated the ship's external speakers. Hello. Unidentified life form. The human tilted his head. Bro, just call me Jim. Draxil was fairly certain his lungs had turned into plasma. Jim? Yep. What's your name, little guy? Little guy? Draxil bristled. He was, by galactic standards, massive. But before he could protest, Jim continued. Hey, question, you lost. Need me to call AAA? Draxil blinked. AAA? Yeah, the Auto Club. Help you with your ship. Maybe get you a tow. Draxil turned to BIL in mute horror. You see, BIL said, they are completely unhinged. Draxil swallowed hard. Jim, I come in peace? Cool, so you want a beer or what? Draxil's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. His brain was caught in an infinite logic loop. Why? It's a greeting, Jim explained. Means, welcome, let's chill. Alcohol is a greeting. Jim nodded enthusiastically. Hell yeah, we pretty much invented civilization so we'd have places to drink together. Draxil stared. He had studied thousands of species, each with intricate rituals, complex societal structures, and carefully preserved traditions. Humans had built their entire world around drinking. He was about to ask a follow-up question when Jim squinted at him through his helmet. Wait a minute. You're not one of them lizard people, are you? Draxil flinched. What? No, He paused. Wait, what do you mean, one of them? Jim sighed. Oh, you know. The government lizard people, the ones secretly controlling everything. Draxil was now 110% sure that the ancient ones had been terrified of this planet for a reason. No, Draxil said slowly. I am not a government lizard person. Jim exhaled in relief. Phew, good. We got enough of those already. Draxil was about to respond when another voice crackled through Jim's radio. Jim, what the hell are you doing? Jim turned away from Draxil. Hey, Chief, found a little alien fella up here. Jim, get back in the station. But he seems cool. Jim sighed. All right. He turned back to Draxil. Welp, guess I gotta go. You want to grab a beer later? Draxil did not, under any circumstances, want to grab a beer later. Sure, he lied. Jim gave a big thumbs up. Awesome. Catch you later, space dude. Then, with a lazy spin, he pushed himself back toward a giant metal structure labeled International Space Station. Keep out, except Jim. Draxil, meanwhile, just stood there, paralyzed in existential horror. Do you see now? BIL said darkly. We are dealing with a species that should not exist. Draxil sat down very slowly. I think I need a drink. Draxil had faced many unsettling truths in his career. He had once discovered a species that communicated exclusively through aggressive sneezing. He had encountered a civilization that built its entire economy around collecting shiny rocks. He had even survived a week inside a sentient, carnivorous briefcase. But nothing had prepared him for humans. Back on the Curious Mistake, he sat frozen in the pilot's seat, staring blankly at the blue-green nightmare outside his window. So, BIL said finally. Now do you believe me? Draxil exhaled shakily. I don't know what to believe. Oh, let me help. Believe that we need to leave. Draxil shook his head. No, this is bigger than us. The galaxy needs to know what we've found. No. The galaxy needs to not know. If we tell anyone, do you know what will happen? They'll want to study humans. They'll try to understand humans. And do you know what happens when you try to understand humans? Draxil swallowed. What? You go insane. Draxil pinched the bridge of his nose. All right, let's analyze the data logically. He pulled up the recordings from his encounter with Jim and played them back. You want a beer? Draxil winced. He fast-forwarded. You're not a government lizard, right? He clenched his jaw. Then, we built civilization to have places to drink. Draxil slammed his fist on the console. That doesn't make sense. Exactly, BIL said. And yet, here they are. Draxil groaned and leaned back in his seat. All right, fine. Maybe we shouldn't tell the Galactic Authority, but we still need more data. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Draxil, buddy, listen to me. You almost died from casual small talk. But imagine what we could learn, Draxil insisted. Their culture, their history, their... A new voice crackled through the ship's comms. Hello, space guy? Draxil froze. Slowly, he turned back to the view screen. Jim was standing outside the International Space Station, holding what looked like a radio. Hey, buddy, Jim continued. Just checking if you're coming down or what? Draxil's soul left his body. Jim knocked on his helmet. You okay, dude? You look like I just told you taxes are due. Draxil's mouth flapped open and shut. He turned to BIL for help. Don't look at me. You did this to yourself. Jim was still talking. If you want to come down, I can call some guys. I know a dude who owns a farm. Good people, you can stay in the barn. Draxil felt his sanity unspooling. You ever seen a cow? Jim continued. They're like big space dogs, but dumber. Draxil pressed the mute button on the comms. I can't do this. Yes, you can't. Finally, you're catching up. Draxil inhaled deeply. All right, okay, here's the plan. We pretend this never happened. We leave, we go home, and we never think about this again. BIL sighed in relief. Thank the stars. I'll prepare for takeoff. Draxil reached for the controls, and then the ship shook. Every alarm in the cockpit blared at once. Warning, unknown energy signature detected. Draxil's eyes widened. What now? BIL scanned the readings. I don't know. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse. The ship's lights flickered, systems crashed, and then silence. Dead silence. Draxil's heart pounded. He tried to restart the engines. Nothing. Then the comms crackled back to life. Jim's voice came through, cheerful as ever. Whoops, sorry, bud. You just got hit with a solar storm. Happens sometimes. Draxil's hands were trembling. Solar storm? Yeah, no biggie. Your stuff should come back online in like 10 minutes. Draxil exhaled. Oh, okay, that's good. Or it could be forever. Hard to say. Draxil screamed. Draxil sat frozen in his chair, hands clenched, breathing in short, panicked gasps. BIL, he whispered, please tell me you can fix this. Oh, sure, BIL said dryly. I'll just reboot our fried systems while floating helplessly in orbit over the nightmare planet. What could go wrong? Draxil forced himself to stay calm. Okay, let's just assess the situation. How bad is it? Well, BIL said, pulling up a damage report. Our engines are offline, our navigation is scrambled, and, oh, look at that, our emergency beacon is now broadcasting a distress signal directly to the humans. Draxil blinked. What? Yeah, apparently the storm messed up our comms, so, congratulations. We've officially asked the most unpredictable species in the galaxy for help. Draxil's stomach dropped. As if on cue, Jim's voice crackled through the speakers. Hey, space buddy, looks like you're in a bit of a situation up there. Draxil smacked his forehead. Why? Why is this happening to me? Good news, Jim continued. Me and the guys were talking, and we figured, hey, why not bring you down here? Draxil's blood turned to ice. No, I'm not going down there. Jim either didn't hear him or just didn't care. Lucky for you, we got a rocket ready to launch anyway. Weather's good, beer's cold, and hey, you probably need a break from all that space nerd stuff, right? Draxil's eye twitched. I am a highly trained scientist on a critical mission. Awesome. See you in a few. The comms went dead. Draxil turned to BIL. Tell me they can't actually do this. Oh, they absolutely can. Humans love launching things into space. They do it constantly, sometimes for science, sometimes for fun. One time, they shot a car into deep space just because they could. Draxil grabbed the sides of his head. I am going to die. Yep, probably. Draxil slumped back in his chair. There had to be a way out of this. He just needed time. He needed... A blaring alarm cut through his thoughts. "Warning! Incoming object!" Draxil bolted upright. "What now?" A video feed popped up on the screen, and Draxil's brain immediately tried to escape through the back of his skull. A rocket was heading straight for him. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a sleek, futuristic spacecraft. It was a glorified metal tube strapped to what looked like way too many explosives. Painted on the side, in big, friendly letters, were the words, "NASA, we probably know what we're doing." Draxil let out a strangled scream. "See," BIL said, sounding far too calm, "this is why we don't talk to humans." Draxil scrambled to reroute power, anything to get the engines back online, but the controls were still dead. He was trapped. Then, to his utter horror, the comms flickered back on. A new voice. "Unidentified vessel, this is Mission Control. You're about to receive a rescue team. Please remain calm." Remain calm. Remain calm. Draxil turned to BIL. "How long until we can move?" "Best case, an hour. Worst case, never." Draxil stared as the human rocket closed in. He had less than 5 minutes. He did the only thing he could think of. He hit the self-destruct button. Nothing happened. "BIL? I lied. We don't have one." Draxil grabbed the console and screamed. The rocket was getting closer. Draxil's mind raced through every possible scenario. There had to be a way out. Some brilliant last-minute plan that would prevent the worst-case scenario from happening. He turned to BIL. "Options. Now!" Okay. We could fake a core meltdown, make them back off. Too risky. Next. Pretend we're a haunted ship. Humans seem to fear ghosts. "What kind of plan is that?" "I don't know, Draxil. I'm panicking." Draxil clutched his head. Okay. Maybe we can just... The comms crackled again. "Hey, space dude! It's Jim again!" Draxil let out a noise somewhere between a whimper and a scream. "Just a heads up, our pilot Rick had a few beers before launch, so this might be a little bumpy." Draxil nearly passed out. "They let intoxicated individuals pilot rockets?" "Apparently, yes," BIL said. "Shall I prepare your last words?" Draxil slammed his fists on the console. "I refuse to die like this." "Oh, and brace for impact!" Draxil barely had time to process that before the rocket crashed into his ship with the precision of a thrown brick. Alarms blared. The entire ship lurched. Draxil was thrown from his chair, tumbling across the floor as every warning system in the curious mistake screamed in protest. The impact should have been catastrophic. It should have resulted in a fiery explosion, sending debris scattering into the void. Instead, a loud clunk. Draxil groaned, rolling onto his back. "Am I dead? No, but I wish I was." He staggered to his feet and checked the status display. Against all logic, the human rocket had docked with his ship. Not in a careful, professional manner, but more like someone had rammed a shopping cart into a wall and called it parking. And then a loud metallic banging echoed through the ship. Draxil turned pale. They were trying to get in. "Nope," he spun around. "BIL, I need a plan." But before BIL could respond, the emergency airlock slammed open. And there they were, 3 humans, wearing big, puffy spacesuits, their faces visible through transparent visors. One of them was waving excitedly. "Hey, buddy!" It was Jim. Draxil's hands clenched into fists. "I am going to commit so many crimes." Jim floated inside, completely at ease, as if boarding an alien vessel was just another Tuesday for him. "Gotta say, nice little rig you got here. Bit dented, though." Draxil was too stunned to respond. The other 2 humans entered behind Jim, one holding a toolbox, the other chewing something. "Hello," said the one with the toolbox. "I'm Rick. This here is Todd." Todd nodded. "Hey, want some gum?" Draxil visibly twitched. "You people crashed into my ship." "Yep," Jim said cheerfully, "and now we're here to help." Draxil stared at them, then at the damaged airlock, then back at them. "I don't need help. I need you to leave." Jim laughed. "Can't do that, pal. See, we got a saying down on Earth. No man left behind." Draxil's eye twitched. I'm not a man. I'm not even from your planet. Yeah, but you're in space, which means you're automatically part of the team. Draxil took a deep, shaky breath. Okay, fine. You're here. Just don't touch anything. Rick was already touching things. Interesting setup, he said, flipping switches at random. What's this do? Please don't touch that, BIL said. I hate this. I hate this so much. Jim clapped a hand on Draxil's shoulder. Don't worry, buddy. We'll have you fixed up in no time. Draxil closed his eyes. He had no idea how things could possibly get worse. Then Todd spoke. Hey, so, we were thinking, he said. Once we get you back up and running, want to come down to Earth for a bit? Draxil's soul left his body. Draxil had been through a lot in the past hour. He had been stranded in orbit. His ship had been assaulted by a human rocket. His emergency beacon had inadvertently summoned the very creatures the Galactic Authority had spent millennia avoiding. And now, one of them was inviting him to Earth. Draxil stared at Todd as if he had just suggested leaping into a supernova for fun. Come, down to Earth, he repeated, voice hollow. Yeah, Jim said enthusiastically. Figured you might want to check the place out. Draxil's entire body was rejecting this concept. No, that is the opposite of what I want. Rick shrugged. Don't be like that. Earth's great. Good food, good drinks, and hey, we got zoos. Why would that be a selling point? Jim grinned. We also got a place called Florida. Draxil had no idea what a Florida was, but based on everything he had learned so far, he was 99% sure it was a death trap. He turned to BIL, desperation in his eyes. Please, tell me the engines are online. Tell me we can leave. Tell me anything that isn't me being dragged to the nightmare planet by these lunatics. BIL beeped, processing the damage reports. Well, the engines are at 47% functionality. We might be able to limp away. Emphasis on might. Draxil latched onto that like a drowning man grabbing a life preserver. Then we leave. Now. Jim folded his arms. Sounds like someone's scared. Draxil scoffed. I am not scared. I am rationally avoiding a planet that has clearly infected the galaxy with sheer insanity. Oh, come on, Jim said. Live a little. If I go down there, I won't live at all. Rick sighed. Well, that's a shame. Guess we'll have to tell everyone about you. Draxil froze. What? Todd nodded. Yup, shame, really. First contact and all. If you won't come down, I guess we'll just have to let the whole world know. Draxil's entire body locked up. They wouldn't. They would. The entire premise of the Galactic Authority's stance on Earth, the only thing preventing galactic-wide chaos, was the fact that humans didn't know about everything else. And now, 3 random astronauts were about to ruin that. Jim clapped his hands together. So, what's it gonna be, space dude? You pop down for a beer, or do we become interstellar celebrities? Draxil twitched violently. That is not how first contact works. First contact? Jim repeated, laughing. Bro, this ain't first contact. This is just 3 dudes hanging out in space. Draxil physically felt his will to live drain away. He turned to BIL. What do I do? Well, your options appear to be A. Submit to the chaos and go to Earth, or B. Let the secret of alien life get plastered across every human news network by these idiots. Draxil shut his eyes, took a deep breath, exhaled. Then, very, very reluctantly, he muttered, Fine. Jim cheered. Hell yeah, road trip. Rick high-fived Todd. I'll call NASA. Let 'em know we're bringing a +1. Draxil's soul left his body. Jim slung an arm over his shoulder. Don't worry, man, you're gonna love Earth. Heck, we'll even take you to a sporting event. Draxil had a horrible